Hey everyone, it's Argonath here from Return of the Fan, and a new article on how James Bond's No Time to Die is performing in the box office. Um, it performed pretty well internationally, but for some reason it's not performing so well domestically. So let's have a look. So apparently this is the worst opening weekend for Daniel Craig's James Bond. So out of the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, this is the worst one. Um, I guess we could put it down to maybe COVID, but if you look at what's happening in the US in terms of sports and things like that, sports are being very well attended. There's massive crowds going along to college football, NFL, hockey, NHL, and so on. So I don't think it's really down to the COVID situation, but let's have a look. The latest James Bond installment, No Time to Die, took top spot at the domestic box office despite a poor showing and underperforming expectations and predictions. Well, I mean, you can always predict very high and then you underperform that, but then you're still doing pretty well, right? So let's have a look at what they actually predicted. According to the Numbers website, the film grossed 55.2 million in its opening weekend. That's pretty good actually. That was enough to beat Venom, which earned 31.7 million in its second weekend. Now remember, it took in about 90 million internationally, but it hadn't been out in all international markets. So yeah, I think 55.2 is pretty good, but it might be a bit down for the domestic US market. Um, and I think that could be down to maybe that Bond fans are kind of the older generation people, kind of older people that are interested in James Bond, whereas the younger crowd might not be so interested in James Bond movies. Just making a generalization there, but that's what I think it could be. And so the younger generation are happy to go out to sports stadiums and so on, fill those up and watch live sport, but not so interested in going to see James Bond. Whereas the older crowd, probably due to COVID, not really interested in going out to big events, and so they might not have gone out to the movies and so on. But that's just a thought. I don't have any real evidence to kind of back that up, but just an observation about what's happened. So the rest of the top five included Adam's Family 2, which brought in 10.1 million. Shang-Chi still going strong with another 4.3 million. And the Many Saints of Newark edged out Free Guy with 1.4 million. So with No Time to Die's 55.2 million domestic opening weekend and an extra 6.9 million at the domestic theatres during the Columbus Day weekend, the film has grossed 318.7 million globally. So you might be thinking, wow, that's really good. That's doing really well. Now, just remember that I think the film had a budget of around 250 to 300 million. So to break even, you kind of have to multiply that by around 2.5 to allow for things like marketing, um, all that kind of stuff. And it's been delayed quite a lot as well, so that's going to add extra costs on to the budget of this particular movie as well. So I've seen figures on the internet of around, it has to make around 8 to 900 million to just to break even, right? Even if we were generous and say maybe it has to make 600 million, it might be pushing it to actually break even for this movie. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see what the final figures actually end up. I mean, they're still going to make money through streaming because they'll sell the streaming rights to streaming companies, selling physical media, so Blu-rays and so on. So they're still going to make money out of that. But in the end, I guess we'll never really know if it made money or not. But I guess we'll see. Uh, so let's have a look. So they predicted that the film would earn anywhere between 56 and 85 million in its opening weekend and 140 and 240 million for its overall domestic take during the length of the run. So yeah, they probably just overestimated, right? And so they can say, oh, it underperformed, but in fact, it's probably about right where it should be. And maybe James Bond kind of being more a Eurocentric movie, I guess it's more European, um, English actors and so on. MI5. So maybe it just doesn't appeal as much to American people. But again, just an observation, nothing really to back that up. Be interested to hear what you think as well. So not only did the film not hit this long range number, but it vastly underperformed. So again, if you overestimate, then it's going to underperform as well. So yeah, I don't think it was too bad. But we'll just see if it makes its actual movie. So it just talks about where it falls in comparison to other James Bond movies. So it's kind of behind Skyfall, Spectre, and Quantum of Solace, but that's if you don't factor in inflation. So if you factor in inflation, which you have to do because inflation always increases costs and things, the movie moves down to 7th, behind Die Another Day, Casino Royale, World Is Not Enough, and so on. So it means it's the worst opening for a James Bond film starring Daniel Craig. And I think there's a couple of other reasons for this as well, which I'll get to in a minute. So it just talks about some of the other movies. I'm not going to go into those ones. So Venom is still going pretty strong. It only had a 65% decline. This is really interesting, right? Venom, not the most famous movie ever, and that's still going pretty strong, right? Only a 65% decline in the second week. So I think problem with the thing with Venom is that it's quite just a fun movie. It might not be the greatest movie of all time, but it's a fun movie, lots of action and that kind of stuff. No wokeness or anything like that. So I think that's why that one's going pretty well. So people are just looking for fun movies to be entertained at the moment. They're not interested in political stances, agenda stances, left-wing wokeism, all that kind of stuff. And I think James Bond had a little bit of that. I don't know if you remember the very first trailer. That was full of woke stuff, right? The character Nomi just putting down Bond at all situations. The trailer had Nomi coming in as 007, so people were thinking, oh no, James Bond has been taken out of 007, which is, that's him. James Bond is 007. Even though 007 is just a number, that's who we associate with 007. I really think that they were going to replace James Bond with Nomi in this particular movie, so they could carry on with Nomi in the future. But I think that because of the really bad reaction to this, they did a lot of reshoots so that they could carry on with Bond as it is and not have Nomi take over. That's my feeling. Again, I don't have any evidence for that, but from what I've read around the internet, that could be a very likely scenario. Alright, so yeah, interesting. So here's the top 10 at the worldwide box office. Quite a few Chinese movies there, not surprising because there's a lot of people in China. Look at Fast 9, the Fast Saga at 716.1 million. Godzilla vs. Kong, 467 million. Shang-Chi is only at 402 million. So Shang-Chi is probably going to need to get about 500-600 million as well to kind of break even. Yeah, so it should be pretty close to breaking even now for Shang-Chi, but I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of money to do that. So what's the problem with Bond's domestic thing? Another factor that we could take into account is that it was released internationally 1 week before it was released domestically. And as you know, these days with the internet, spoilers just get around so quickly, right? People talking about, oh, it's the length of the movie is too long. It kind of drags a bit, even though it has some really good action sequences. It's not that woke, but there are certain woke things inside the movie as well. And then the ending, which has caused a lot of discussion. I won't say anything. There's no spoilers, but I think because of the ending, that might have affected the domestic box office because people it's very hard to be spoiler free, right? So if a lot of people found out what the ending was about, that might have put them off going to see it. So I'm going to do a talk about the ending in another video. So if you wish to just hear my take on the ending, that's great. Now I haven't actually been able to see the movie because here in New Zealand, I'm in a part of New Zealand which is in lockdown because of COVID. We're having a resurgence here, and of course our cinemas are closed at the moment in our particular city, which is really annoying. So I've just had to go and read about the movie at the moment. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you have any ideas what the cause to the lower expectation, the low box office for Bond domestically in the US? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I'd love to read those. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, you're welcome to give it a thumbs down. And if you like my content, then please give me a subscription. It'll just help my videos to get noticed by the YouTube algorithm, which will be awesome. And hopefully I will catch you in the next video.